Welcome back to the Glow Up Girl podcast. I'm Kyra. All right, I'm excited to welcome Neena. Welcome, Neena.
Well, I'm excited to be here, Kyra. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, Neena is a fellow podcaster, so I'm really excited. I love when podcasters connect. But why don't we get started by having you tell the audience who you are and what you do?
Oh, well, I'm Neena Perez. I'm a transformational life and business coach, and I help purpose driven women create the coaching businesses that align with their purpose. So I do that in three ways. We do that by doing some inner work, some inner healing stuff, transcending unwanted behaviors, that self sabotage that kicks in, and co creation, me, them, and God, creating the business that they want. Yeah.
Yes, I love it. I love that. So I was definitely really excited to have you on and to chat with you because I feel like there are so many women, especially out there, who have purpose driven. It's like you said, you've been called to do this thing. Like God told you, like, do this. And then you're like trying to figure out how do I do that? And how do I make like money? How it's like,
Right.
how do I
Right.
turn that into a business? So I'm very grateful and thankful for people who do what you do.
Thank you so much. I try to be obedient as much as possible. Not always. I'm not always obedient, but I definitely try to be. And it's been impactful, right? When you can help women along because we carry a lot, we carry a lot of old habits, old patterns, trauma, things like that. And so I've been through all of that, done that, wrote a book about it, and I'm helping as many people as I can along the way.
Yes. Okay. I love that. So we're going to start. We're going to start by talking about some of the key mindset shifts, right? So you mentioned something when you were in talking your intro, just about how we self-sabotage, like how
Mhm.
the inner mean girl shows up, how all those things tell you can't. What key mindset shifts do you believe are essential for women entrepreneurs for us to build a business rooted in purpose and passion?
I think the first thing is to recognize all that God has equipped you with already. One of the things that we tend to kind of not look at or don't think we have enough of, or we're not of this, or we're not worthy of that, whatever that is. And I really feel like all of our experiences, all of our wisdom, our talents, all of our God given gifts, all of that is utilized for our good. And so even though you've maybe been through something, had some trauma, did some, some things have happened to you, those things are so useful for what you want to do and what you want to create. Because honestly, Kyra, I believe that our lives are not just for us, it's for to impact the next person, that fellow person, right? And so self sabotage, things like that, is because of fears. They're ingrained, real deep rooted fears. And sometimes we don't recognize them, right? Because our brain automatically has to go to an answer quickly. And so it will, we don't need to do all that. Right. Like, I don't need to start a podcast. That takes a lot of work. Of course, it takes a lot of work. But if you want to do it, do it. Right. So,
Right.
yeah, I think we all need each other to help ourselves look maybe at an angle we weren't looking at before.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And I love that you said you brought up the you mentioned starting the podcast because I tell the story a lot on here. I know anybody who's been with this show for all the seasons, like my own story of starting the podcast was like hearing from God saying start the podcast and me fighting for like about 1 to 2 months and saying
I
and
know
mine
that's right.
and mine was like the first thing I heard was like, I mean, nobody wants to hear what I have to say. Like
Not,
that was the first thing that came that that limiting belief said to me. And then I was just like, after a while, it was like, God was like, well, I'm not going to stop telling you. Like, I'm going to keep bringing it to you. I'm going to keep putting it in front of you until you do it. And then
that's
finally,
so
I was
cool.
like, all right, I'll do it.
Yes, exactly. And all of that, right? I'm sure that you've done some work, and when you do, you realize it's not because nobody wants to hear you, it's because you're afraid of who's going to hear you. You're
Oh, for sure.
afraid of what they're going to say. You're afraid of the judgment, right?
Yeah.
And it's literally just calling out your own BS. Like, when you
Yeah.
start to think about that stuff, just recognize that you're being sabotaged, that there's a saboteur there. First things
Mhm.
first, call it out. Why am I
Mhm.
thinking like this? What is this really like, for real? What is this really about?
Yeah,
I
and I think you're so right because when I sat with it, it was just that. It was like, no, because well, I have to put myself out there
Yeah,
and
yeah.
people are going to hear me. And then I even remember too, like for a really long time, I had just like a graphic for my podcast where it was like this image of like women. And I remember someone saying like, why don't you put like your photo like on your podcast graphic? And I was just like, I don't know. I mean, it just, and it was the same thing. Like I knew it was the same thing. Like it opens you up more to like people and judgment and whatever. And then, but eventually I just got to this place to where I was able to get to the root of that and say, yeah, but if this helps someone connect to me because they see a person, a woman, a face that looks like theirs or another woman, and they're like, oh, I'll check this out. And so, yeah, so I can just definitely see, like, I understand how it happens, but then I also understand how you can overcome it. And
Right.
I think that is also like a part of like the second question I want to talk about, like the limiting beliefs, right? Like what are some of the ones that you see often in the work that you do? And then what do you recommend? What are steps to take to overcome them?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Some of the biggest ones is I don't know. Like, I can't do it. I don't know how to do it. That's a stopping mechanism in our brain because let's be real. All of us can figure that out, right? Whether it's you get a coach or a mentor or somebody who's done it, you can figure it out. But when you immediately tell your brain, no, I can't do it, right? You will shut it down. You're shutting it down. So the women that come through my program, they always start with the I don't know, I can't do it, to, well, actually, maybe I can do it, to, heck yeah, I could do it. So we go through this little journey together. And it's because I feel like that's the first thing that comes up is I don't know, I can't, right? And the truth is yes, you can. And sometimes it's only because you don't have the tools set in front of you to teach you how to do it, right? Whatever it is, right? If you don't know how to do a podcast, ask a podcaster, right? Or get a podcast coach. If you don't know how to do a coaching business, get a coaching coach. Just figure it out and you can. So my first step is ask yourself, okay, I don't know. If I did, what would it be? If I did know, right? Because if you ask your brain a question, your brain has no choice but to try to figure out the answer, right? So if I tell people, yeah, don't think of a pink elephant, you're immediately thinking of a pink elephant. I told you not to think about it. Why are you thinking about a pink elephant? Because your brain, especially your subconscious, doesn't really know that the no's or the negative of what you're saying. So for instance, I don't want to be overweight anymore. But your brain thinks, oh, I want to be overweight. The don't doesn't actually compute. That's not anything but, the way we were built. That's the way God created us. And so we have to start shifting the way we think, and you got to call it out. Like if you're noticing that you're saying, oh, I can't, don't just sit in that. Don't just sit in that I can't. Figure it out. And that means like reach to somebody who does know. Listen, I'm a 6-figure or a business, but I want to become a 7, 8-figure business. I don't know how to do that yet. So I need to get myself around my coaches that are 7 and 8 figures to figure that out. We all have that, right, Kyra? So I think that's the first thing. Understand where your language is. What are you actually saying?
Right.
Call it out. Call it out. Yeah.
Yeah. I like that. I think that's so important because it like ties back to like just the self-talk, right? It's just like, what is our self-talk? What are we telling ourselves? But also on the other side of that, I love that you say like get help because I think people are conditioned. Like first it's like, I don't know, like you said, I don't know how. And then the second thing is you run to everybody's like, oh, go to Google, YouTube and figure it out. And it's okay to do those things. But if you want to build like a sustainable foundation, if you want to build a sustainable foundation to something, then you have to reach out to, let me find a coach that someone who has done this before me. And I think like a lot of times people feel like, oh, well, I don't need, and because I know like a lot of times like, they're like, I've done some projects with people who started podcasts. And then like they were like, oh wow, like I thought like it would just be so easy for me to do it. But I didn't realize it had all these steps. I'm like, yes, like it's not just you start talking on a mic. I mean, you can, but if you want to have a business, if you want to have a sustainable you got to start with building the foundation and all the pieces. And I think like a lot of times people tell themselves like, well, I don't need that. I don't need the coach. I don't need those things because I'll just get it and I'll do it. But like, you're right in the place of saying like, you should look at someone who is successful at it and say, reach out. and say, what can I learn from you? If they are a coach, then say, how can you help me? I mean, you don't have to, like I told you, you don't have to have a coach forever. I mean, but a coach can be a good starting point. It can help you build, and then it can help you to like get ready to fly on your own.
You also have to be willing to invest in yourself. And most of us are
Yes.
not when it comes to ourselves
Yeah.
for like our personal development. So
Mhm.
it's funny because we have these compartments that we have in our brain. So we'll say, "Oh, thank you so much. Your program's amazing. I can't afford it." Okay. And then the same conversation talk to me about how you just bought a $50,000 car that you also cannot afford,
Yeah.
right? But you're making payments. And that's the thing. Like at some point, you have to say to yourself, I need to be worth investing in myself because I want to
Right.
proceed faster. Because you're right, Kyra. Listen, you guys, everybody who's listening, you can definitely go onto YouTube University and all these other places and get the
Mhm.
pieces. But I promise you, it's going to take you like 3 to 5 years longer than if you just got somebody who's already created the wheel for you. And that's the difference, right? Everybody
Yeah.
can learn to podcast from YouTube. Go ahead. You're going to get 50,000 different ways to do it. And then you're
Mhm.
going to try to figure it all out. And, oh,
Yeah.
nobody told me about this piece. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
For sure.
yeah, you need someone on your side.
Yes, and that is a key. That is definitely a key thing is investing in yourself.
100%.
And it's like, and I think people are afraid. Like when I got a coach, I was like, I want this coach. And I actually met my coach that I had on my podcast. She was a guest on the podcast. She didn't come in, she didn't try to sell me anything or anything like that. We just had a great conversation and I connected to her and I was like,
I
wow,
love that.
I'd really like to learn from her. I think she could help me with just some things that I'm going through right now that I need. And so I set up time with her. We had a kickoff. We talked about her programs. We talked about, and I honestly said to her, well, I mean, I am self funding my business right now. So, yes, I have a full time job, but I am, life, I still have to live. And I
Yeah,
want to do this. I want to do your program. And she said, okay, well, this is what we'll do. It's going to be this amount. Do you want to break it up in 2 payments in a month? And I was like, can we do that? And she
yeah,
was like, yes. And I think a lot of times people just don't ask.
yeah,
Like you don't get because you don't ask. And
right.
people are more willing to work with you because everybody understands if you're trying to do the work, then I'm definitely going to be there to support and try to help you figure it out. So I think that's just really important. And I think a lot of times women will say, I don't think, like you said, I don't think I can afford it or I shouldn't be doing this because I have to do these other things. And it's like, no,
Mhm.
no, you need to prioritize your growth and personal development is a form of self-care.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And you also have to like know who you're connecting with. Like I love that she came on your podcast and you connected with her in that way.
Mhm.
I call those God nudges, God is
Mhm.
kind of
Yeah.
like nudging you, a little bit. I have like when I meet with women, when they come to me to talk to me about being my program, I never sell them the first day. In fact, I don't give them anything to buy the first day, the
Mhm.
first meeting. And that is because, Kyra, I need you to also be aligned with what I'm doing. I don't just have anybody in my program. So, like, we'll have a whole conversation. I'll give them strategies and tools and tips on everything that they could do when they walk away from the meeting. And they're like, how do I sign up? Nope, you're going to wait a day or so. We'll meet up again, like Wednesday or so, whatever. And we'll
Mhm.
talk about it. And you're going to pray on it. I'm going to pray on it. You're going to
Mhm.
see if I'm
Mhm.
good for you. I'm going to see if you're good for my program. And they're like, really? I'm like, oh, very really, very really, because I'm with you for 6 months to a year, depending on which package you're with. And the truth is because I really invest myself, Kyra. Like I am with these women all the time. Like we do group, but we do also one-on-one. I have a hybrid
Mhm.
model. And God is a part of that. That's why one of my pillars is co-creation. It's me, them, and God. And I
Mhm.
can't do that without God being the CEO and telling
Mhm.
me who I should or shouldn't have in my program. That's just how I run it.
Yep. Amen.
Yep.
I love that. Yes,
Yeah.
I think that's so important because I think a lot of times people misconstrue it's like everybody's trying to sell them and they just want
Yeah.
people, but it's about getting like you connecting to the right people because even though you're learning from your coach is learning from you too.
100%.
I mean, like we're all always learning from each other. And I think, and I love that, like I love that you say, here's all the things. Now let's step away and pray about it and
Yep.
then come back together. Like, cause I think that's so key. Cause we don't always see that in the coaching industry. It's a lot of times it's like, let's send you a link right now if you want to sign.
100%. And you can't get mad at their hustle, but I have
Yes.
been, yeah, I've been on really big, like I've been in really big programs. So I spent, I don't know, maybe close to $200,000 with coaches and programs and whatever have you. And they were okay, right? And some of them did not deliver what they promised. And that's also okay because that should have been on me to do more work, right? To do more research and work on what I was investing in. But yeah, I don't get mad at their hustle, but I personally have, because I built a 6-figure business, I know it's because I've put God first, and I can't stop doing that. Like I can't just not honor him, like
Oh,
it's
for sure.
important. It's important to me.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love that. I love that. And I love, yeah, but sometimes the hustle's a lot,
Yeah, girl. Yeah.
when the hustle is like, let me tell you, I built da 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 number and business, $1 million business. And you're like, okay. And they're like, well, you guys sign up. Once you pay me, then I'll tell you.
Yeah, I don't like that. And I don't
Yeah.
like strong arming people either. Like if somebody says they can't afford it, but I really want to join, I'll say, okay, well, then we'll talk about like payment. I'll even extend the payments for like 7 to 10 months, right? If you're with me for the year program, because I respect and honor the fact that
Right.
that could be your position, and you're with me because you want to start making money. So I get it. I get it. Right. But what I don't like is when people keep pushing you to do it now. Just do it now. Just go,
Yeah.
just put it all on your credit cards. Just do it now. Just take faith.
Oh,
Just do it now.
yeah.
Just not.
Oh,
And I'm like, okay, no, that's not, no. Like,
yeah.
no. How about no?
Yeah, Nina, because that is like you hit the nail on the head because it's like my program costs $12,000, and I know you just told me how like you're working and you are self funding, but put it on a credit card, and I'm like, did you not just hear me tell you that I didn't want to put anything on a credit card because I'm self funding the business, and yeah, and it was like, well, think about it, and then I'm gonna call you back later. No, you're not. You're not gonna call.
Right. And this is the thing, like, great, it's 12,000, it's worth the 12,000. Amazing. Now work with me.
Yeah.
Work with me. How do we
Yeah.
make that happen? Right.
Yeah.
And that's what I do with my women too. I mean, they're with me for a year, right? My program is pretty pricey too. But the whole truth is I'll say to them, okay, you're gonna pray on it and you're gonna see what God tells you is the best way to proceed. I'm gonna pray on it and we're gonna come back together and we're gonna make that happen. Now, if God says no, then I'm not your girl. I'm not the one.
Yeah.
Right? But if God says yes, then I'm going to do everything I can to make sure you're successful, period.
And I think
Right?
that's the great part is because, like you said, God is at the center of it. And I feel like sometimes in some of the other programs, obviously, that's not like those people are like not saying they don't have relationships, but they're not. It's not the driving force. He's not CEO.
Yeah.
He might not be the CEO and how they handle like the sale or the
Right.
approach to sell. So let's talk about when women come to you and you are trying to help them to align, like they've got the passion and you're saying, and here's the business goal and trying to get that alignment. And then let's talk about why it's so important to do that upfront.
So when they come to me, they usually know they have an idea of what they want to do. So they want to start this coaching business. Let's see, I have so many different women doing different things. So we'll use sports. This young lady wants to help young girls in sports to respect their space in sports, but also to grow to be into the collegiate level. So she's coaching them mindset and physically as well. And when she first came, she's like, I know this is kind of what I want to do, but like, how do I structure? Like, what do I do? So what I do is I call it the foundation work. And what we do is I send you like this long spreadsheet and you're answering lots and lots of questions. We go through about an hour and change together, answering a lot of questions. And then there's a whole section that's just on spirituality and gifts. Now that you and God do that together. So we do all the practical, you do the God stuff with God. And then we get together and we figure that out. So when we start to figure that out, this is what happens. When they first come, they don't think they know enough or they're good enough or how enough or whatever the enough is. And then when they see themselves on a spreadsheet, I'm like, right? They're like, what? And I'm like, because I ask a lot of really deep, poignant questions, but that's just because I want to show you the greatness of who you are and
Mhm.
all that God has created you to be, and all your wisdom, your skill sets, your talents, your God given gifts. Like all of
Mhm.
these things make you you. And
Mhm.
now we can start extracting from that your passions, your loves. What do you want to do with that? Blah, blah, blah. And that's when they get lit up because they're like, I didn't even know I knew all of this, right? But like, but you do, right? But you do. And it's absolutely phenomenal. So that's one of the things that I do. So those are like, that's the foundation work. And then we really start to dig into exactly who it is you want to serve. Why
Mhm.
do you want to serve them? And that's
Mhm.
important because a lot of people say, yeah, I just want to serve women. Women what? Well, women over 40. Okay, women over 40 that what? And they're like, more, right? Yeah, I'm like, yes. So
Yeah.
I do something called the 3 ICC, which is the ideal core client, and 3 levels of that woman that you're trying, or man that you're trying to reach.
Mhm.
And there's all kinds of questions, psychographic, demographic questions, blah, blah, blah. But
Mhm.
what it does is it helps you to actually know who you are speaking to. Because I had a
Mhm.
coach come to me and she's in my program and she was like, I'm a mindset coach. I said, that's fantastic. A mindset about what? She's like, to help them with their mindset. I said, that's fantastic. To who? Everyone. How many clients do you have? None. Exactly. He was like, dang, Neena. I was like, when you're speaking to everyone, you're speaking to no one. That is
True.
just the truth.
That's yeah. I love that. And I love that you approach that with people because a lot of times when people start businesses, they're just like you said, it's very broad. It's far. I want this person. I just want to talk to women. And like you said, I want to talk to women between the ages of blah 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 blah. And it's like, okay, that's still a big group. I mean,
Yeah.
and once you start to narrow it down, because you're not gonna be for everyone. Like no
Right.
matter what you do, and I think that's something too that people have to become okay with. It's like what you are providing to the world, the service might not be for every woman, but you'll
Right.
find your people.
Right.
As
I
long
mean,
as and part of that is honoring like your value system and who you are as a person. It's just like with our podcast, right? Like this podcast is not probably not for every woman. I mean, but it's for women who want to better themselves. It's for women who want to have a safe space. It's for people who feel like they haven't had a voice and are
right.
discovering themselves and they're glowing up, as I call it. Like they're discovering those unique things about them that make them who they are in the world. And it's like, and some people may not be there. Some people have already, they already glowed up and they,
Yeah.
and they,
Right. Right.
and so I think like that's the important thing when you can like be okay with like, I'm not for, it's almost like, when it's almost like, oh gosh, it's almost just like I used to tell people this in corporate. Like I still work in corporate, but I work at home. But when I was in the office, they used to always tell me, I'm like, oh, I'm not for everyone. And they were like, oh
Mhm.
no, but you're so not like you're nice. Everybody, I was like, yes, like there's a difference, but yes, I can be nice and people can like me. I was like, but I'm not like I have a sense of humor that may not be for everyone. I
Right.
mean, I said I'm a spiritual person. It may not be for everyone. I said, and I'm okay with that. I
Yeah.
said, like, when you're growing up, a lot of times you feel like you, as women, we have to be something to everyone.
Yeah.
And I was like, and once you get to that place to where you're okay, and I'm like, yeah, that's cool. Like, people, I can say hello and we can be cool and have good, cordial conversations, but then they may not be my people. And that's
Right.
and that's totally fine. And I think like, and people used to look at me crazy, but I'm like, no, I think you'll understand it one day.
Well, I mean, it's like you saying that everybody's for you. You
Exactly.
don't skip it. You don't like everybody. Come on, y'all. Be
No.
honest. Y'all don't like
No.
everybody. Right, right? You don't have to be mean or cruel, but you're not everybody's for you. And it's the same
Exactly.
exact way. And that is a-okay. As long as we are
Mhm.
not hurting anyone and we're decent people and we are
Exactly.
honorable and we are doing what God has asked us to do in the most
Yep.
honorable way possible, that is all you can do. That is the sphere that you can influence.
Mhm.
You just do that. You know, I had a woman, I've always been a spiritual leader. I mean, in 2002,
Mhm.
I got my leadership in Christian spirituality and leadership. And then I went into positive intelligence and NLP and all that great stuff. Okay,
Mhm.
great. But I remember that everybody knows that about me. They know I'm a Christian. I don't hide
Mhm.
it. It's who I am. And I remember this one woman had joined the program. So she was great. She was going great and all that. And then she said, I really would like it if you didn't talk about God. I'm like, yeah, no. That's not gonna happen, you know?
Yeah.
And so she was like, well, I don't know if I can really be a part of it if that's going to continue to happen. I said, okay, that's great. It was really nice knowing you. I hope you have a great time with building out. She's like, oh, I'm like, yeah, no, because I'm not gonna, I'm just not gonna do that. And
Yeah.
you don't tell me how to run my business.
Right.
And
Yeah.
the other women are being impacted, and I cannot have that, right? So you
Exactly.
have to also know who you are, because what
Mhm.
you're doing, the who do I want to work with, is also for you, because
Mhm.
you're not going to want to work with everybody. You
Exactly.
know, there's
Yeah.
people you're not going to want to work with. So honor
Yeah.
yourself.
Yes,
Oh,
yes. And I know we're talking about entrepreneurs, but people out there listening, whoever you are, it same thing in your jobs, in your spaces of like employment. Like you, when you're interviewing people, like when people are like, well, they're interviewing me. No, you're interviewing them as well.
yeah,
Like you are
exactly.
interviewing them to see if they're the people that you want to be working with every day. So I
Yeah,
think like that's always important for people to understand. Like it's not a one way. It's like two ways, and
100%.
both of you. And I love that too, that you were just, I think it's important to like stay true to what's important to us and
Yeah.
our values and who we are as people. And yeah, I bet that lady was probably like, oh wow, she's gonna let me go. Yeah, goodbye.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, she's kind and we still talk and all that great
Yeah,
stuff, but I cannot stop my values and who I am and what's
exactly.
important to me because you said I can't be talking. No, 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 no,
Yeah.
no, no, no. I can. I
Yeah.
absolutely can, and
I
I
can.
will.
Yeah, I can. And then
Exactly.
maybe, we can work together to find someone who might be better suited for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it's okay.
Exactly. So let's talk about something that I feel like as entrepreneurs, we all maybe struggle with is that resiliency piece because it's hard. It's when you're trying to
Yes.
start, grow a business. And of course, we all want things to, we put in the work, we want things to work, we want it to like happen. And when those things don't happen or we face challenges, what do you recommend to your clients as far as like how to stay resilient, how to stay in the game, in the fight?
It's exhausting sometimes, but the way I start every day, every single day of my life is with gratitude. And gratitude helps me stay stable, right? Because every time we wake up, there's always going to be something negative that comes up, whether it's the
Mhm.
bills, whether it's work, whether it's circumstances, family, whatever. So start your day off with complete gratitude, because gratitude anchors you, right? And then
Mhm.
own your story. Now, you've got a track record of triumphs in your life. Everybody does, right? So
Mhm.
even if you tend to forget them, because we do, right?
Mhm.
Every time a
Mhm.
challenge arises, oh my God, this is the worst thing ever. You have been through worse things, right? So
Yeah.
remember the way you've nailed it. You've done it. You've gone through it, right? The tough conversations that you've had, the last minute projects that came up, right? The empty bank accounts, right? Like we've
Mhm.
all
Mhm.
freaking been there. So
Mhm.
start taking a track record of your triumphs. So what I try to do is when I'm going through something, I try to be very intentional to ask God, what is the lesson I'm learning here?
Mhm.
Because it's sometimes so overbearing and overwhelming, and I feel like
Mhm.
crying, and I do
Mhm.
cry because I think it's good for the soul to just let it
Mhm.
out, you
Mhm.
know? But I also say, okay, God, this is super tough. What am I learning here? Because when
Mhm.
I was homeless, I'll never forget this. We went homeless. We lost everything. We lost our house, our cars. We lost everything. It was in the 2008 recession. I was in college getting my degree in my culinary because I'm a chef by trade. And my husband was a contractor, lost all the contracts. I mean, we went broke. We were poor and we lost everything. And we were sleeping in our car, sleeping in people's living rooms, doing whatever we could.
Mhm.
And in the midst of that, I was starting my business, my cooking business, right? So I'm starting my business in college, broke, no money, and I was distraught. And I was, man, that was a bad time. And I just remember feeling so overwhelmed and so hurt. And I just don't know how I was going to do it. And I remember just like, God, what's up with this? I knew that I prayed on this. You told me to go back to school. Da da da. I like going through
Mhm.
the whole thing. And I tell you, Kyra, it's like he was sitting next to me. I felt this amazing experience. And I heard him say in my spirit, I told you to be obedient. I never told you it would be easy. That's exactly what I heard. Right. And it actually just startled me. It actually pushed me back because I was like, whoa, like that was real. Right.
Right.
So I was like, okay, God, I'll tell you what, you're right. So I'm not only going to be obedient, I'm gonna one up you. I said, I'm gonna do everything I can to do everything I can do to get the best grades, to be the best person, to show up every time. Because if you ask me to be obedient, I'm gonna one up you, God. I got you, right? This is me.
Yeah.
I'm all that in a bag of chips, right? You know what? I did do that. I went to school so I was homeless, right? So we had one car, our other car had to be repossessed, the whole thing.
Mhm.
So I remember I would tell my husband, say, okay, honey, because he was trying to look for work. We were going to shelters to get food. I mean, it was bad, right? And I said, I need to go to school early, drop me off early in the morning before school even opens. I would be there with the security guard opening up the door. I would go in, I would make sure I did my homework, all that
Mhm.
kind of stuff. You know how God is so good, Kyra. He's so good, right? Because now in retrospect, after all of this, I realized, Kyra, I was in culinary school. Okay.
Mhm.
So I
Mhm.
was eating amazing meals that we were creating in class,
Mhm.
while I was homeless. Do you
Right.
understand? You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I was getting there in the morning to a school that was closed. I was the only student there, but I would get there early so that I wouldn't have to sleep in the car because it was winter, that
Right.
kind of stuff. And it's like,
Mhm.
and all of that at the end of the school year. So I went to school. I kept going. I got a little part-time job at the school. I was cleaning, doing dishwashing, all this other stuff.
Right.
And I became an instructor. I became a professor. I just remember graduating. I graduated with a 4.25 GPA. And then when they heard my story, because nobody knew, but my teacher
Mhm.
kind of knew that I was homeless and going to school. And when they found out, they made me the valedictorian of the graduating class. So I got like all this stuff. I was in the newspapers and magazines and all this other stuff. Okay,
Nice.
great. Right. You know why?
Mhm.
Because God said to be obedient. He never said
Mhm.
it would be easy. And when
Mhm.
I started shifting my thought on let me be obedient no matter what happens, then God honored me at the end of that.
Mhm.
Right.
Mhm.
And not
Yes.
only did he honor me, he then gave me a full ride scholarship throughout all of school and through my bachelor's degree. I never paid a dime for
Mm.
school, not a dime. Like he is so good. Right.
Yes.
And so
Yeah.
I will just tell people to be encouraged no matter what you are going
Mhm.
through. I'm telling you, everything in life is temporary.
Mhm.
Okay. The bad and the good. So why
Mhm.
not take it with God in both sections of your life and just keep it moving? Because that's all you
Mhm.
got, right? We're not promised
Mhm.
tomorrow. So I don't even remember
Mhm.
what the question was. You got me teaching. And
I know. I was like Nina over here dropping like the word on a Friday night.
Lord, took interview. Okay.
I love that because I think, you said something that is so key. And I think it's such a so many things you said that were like so good. But starting it with gratitude, but then
Yeah.
also
Oh, that's what it was.
for those who are out there who are believers, just being obedient and also like, because I mean, you hit me with I didn't say it was gonna be easy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
I was like, okay, God, you got me.
Yeah.
Sometimes he send a word through somebody else, you just gotta catch it. So I caught that. But I just think that's just so important because
Yeah.
you are right. I mean, like he is there through it all.
Yeah.
And we do have to look for the lessons.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing that a lot of times that escapes us and why we
Yeah.
keep like having to, as we like to say, oh, I'm in the hamster wheel. No, you in the hamster wheel because you ain't getting a lesson.
Yeah.
And so I think that's really important. But what I hear for you all listening is, gratitude and be encouraged
Yeah.
and take the lessons. Like
Yep.
those things are really important. And I think that is truly what being resilient looks like because you
Mhm.
aren't going to always be on top. You're going to get knocked down and you're going to wonder why and you're going to have to like get back up and you have to
Yep.
keep going. I mean, and it's a process. Like it's like you said, it's the highs and lows of just being a human being.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
that's what it looks like.
I mean, it is a stepping stone. Everything that you go through in life is just another stepping stone to where
Mhm.
you're going. And I
Yeah.
and I want to encourage everyone listening too. Like I know sometimes things are hard. I'll share a little story of a client I had. She had lost her daughter in a car accident, and it had been like 4 or 5 years when she came to me. Her daughter had been gone about 4 or 5 years, and she was
Mhm.
a teenager. And her mother was still very angry, reasonably so. Right, when you lose a
Mhm.
child, that is not something you can get through very easily and or can get through, period, right? And so she
Mhm.
came to me, she was very bitter, she was very angry, and she wanted to scream at the world. She was very upset. And this is when I was more in spiritual coaching than I was in business coaching. And I just remember this story because I remember God placed it in my heart to ask her the question, what good can come from this? And she was livid. Like, how
Mm,
dare I ask her such a question, right? So she
mhm.
screamed at me and she yelled at me and she cursed me out and she did all the things and she hung up and I prayed for her. And then about 3 weeks later, so she calls me. She goes, Nina, I need to speak with you. I'm like, uh-oh, I'm afraid, Kyra. I'm afraid, right? Because she done cursed me out already. I'm afraid. So I got on the screen with her and she says, can I just tell you, I was so angry with you. She said, I was so angry with you for like a week. But the
Mm,
question kept playing in my head, what good can come of this? And she
mhm.
said, I could not get that stupid question out of my head. And I'm like, okay. And she goes, and you know what she did, Kyra? She actually took that situation that was hard. She finally let it go and started being more like,
Mhm,
okay, my daughter was also very amazing, very
mhm,
smart, very
mhm.
talented, instead of just my daughter's dead only,
Right,
right?
right. Yep.
Remembered all the
Mhm,
beautiful and things. And what did she
mhm,
do? She ended up starting a program that helps high schoolers and stuff like that learn about, drunk
mhm,
driving and all that
mm,
kind of stuff. So
mhm.
she's impacting schools now. And that's what
Yeah.
I mean. Like, yes, that situation's horrible, but you have no idea how many lives that she might have saved
Mhm.
now,
Yep.
right?
Yep,
Like
for sure.
it's that. So
Mm,
even through the heavy, hard times, I'm telling you guys, just grab a paper and pencil and write whatever God is placing in your heart. Look around and say, what am I learning from this nonsense? Because sometimes things are just nonsense, right? But there is a lesson. There is a lesson in all things, right?
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. So Nina, if someone's out there and they're listening and they're thinking, like Nina, girl, I hear you, you putting down a good word, but they may feel like they're might be feeling overwhelmed or unsure. Like, what are the first
Mhm,
steps
mhm,
if someone says, I know I've got like a purpose and I want to
mhm.
start a purpose-driven business? What would you say to anyone listening out there about getting started?
I think the first thing to get started is first of all, pause. Why do you want to do it? Right? Find out what it is that you really, really want to do. I think
Mhm,
that, right now, because of social media and so many things out there, we see a lot of people flashing a lot of things at you and they look all fun and games and stuff
mhm,
like that. But is it really what you want to do? And if it is, fantastic. I love
mhm,
that. I love
mhm,
that all day. Right. But I think the first thing is to recognize that, it's going to take effort. It's going to take help. It's going to take
mhm,
being vulnerable. It's going to take all of that because at the
mhm.
end of the day, just like Kyra said, right? She is self-funding her business. I was self-funding my business for years. And I want all of you guys to know too, you don't have to go quit your job tomorrow because you want to start something. I call a job is a interest-free loan that you don't have to pay back because you already worked for it, right? You already
Mhm,
worked for it. So you can take some of that money, take about 10% of it, invest it into your business if that's what you want to do. Test it out. See
mhm,
if that's what you want to do. Because a lot of the things that people don't tell you if you're getting into, let's say, coaching, because that's what I do, is that there's a lot of moving pieces. And so people think that, oh, I just go get my certification as a life coach. I'm good. No, you're
mhm,
going to need marketing, automation,
mhm.
systems, niches. Like you're going to need so many pieces, and it's not impossible. Just get the right
Right.
people on your side and understand that there's somebody already who's maybe a chapter or two ahead of you that can help you do that. And
Mhm.
don't fall for the I'll make you a millionaire by tomorrow. That's not true. That's not true. They're overnight successes after 20 years of trying. Okay?
Mhm,
So take your time.
mhm,
Sometimes you can go up levels too. Like if you know somebody has maybe one system that you want,
mhm,
then maybe just hire that person for that one system.
mhm,
I ended up building a machine, but that's because of years of doing it. I've been doing this since 2002. So I have a whole VA system. I have a VAs that part of my business. I have a whole marketing and automation part of my business. I have a whole video editing team. So, those things take time. It's not like
mhm.
overnight.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
one step at a time, one thing at a time. Don't get overwhelmed and don't think you got to do everything because, man, you do not. It is a lie
Mhm.
from the pit of hell that you have to learn
Yeah,
everything or do everything. It is a complete
exactly.
lie.
Yes. Yes, I love that. Thank you. That's some great advice. All right, tell us about your podcast, Straight Talk, No Sugar Added.
So I want you to come on. I hope you can come.
I
Uh,
will.
okay, great. Straight Talk No Sugar Added is a platform that I've built to give back to the world to connect good humans. So, like yourself, Kyra, you would come on my show. I would ask you, who are you, Kyra? And then we'd get into all of that and then how you impact the world. So, it's really about a good human being who has been through something, overcame it, and now they use that to impact the world. That's what I do because I believe there's so many good humans. Honestly, there's a lot of good people out there, and I want to connect us, right? So, I know there's like these ginormous big podcasts like the Joe Rogans and the whatever, and they're all superstars, but 90% of us are not that. 90% of us are just good humans doing good things in the world. And that's what I want to do. The podcast is doing really well. I love it very much. I think I have like, I don't know, maybe close to 6,000 subscribers on YouTube and like 120,000 downloads on my podcast. And I have like 180,000 views on YouTube right now. And so it's doing really well. It's growing. It's expanding in a beautiful way. But that's what the podcast is about. If you want to hear real, authentic conversations of people who come to drop knowledge for you on leadership, entrepreneurship, solarship, faith, just life things, then Straight Talk No Sugar Added is for you.
Love that. And we will make sure to link it in the show notes as well. All right. So tell everyone out there how they can work with you and how they can connect with you.
Well, if you want to know more about what I do, you can go to my website. It's NeenaPerez.com. So Neena is spelled Neena, Perez.com. But you can find me literally anywhere. I'm very Googleable, if that's a word. You can Google me. So Neena Perez or Straight Talk No Sugar Added. And I'm more than happy to hop on calls. Like I said, I don't sell anything on those calls. Those calls are me and you strategizing about what it is you want to do, how you want to do it, and if maybe I can help. I just never, I don't believe in that toxic selling type of environment. Never ran my life like that, never will. And so for anybody who wants to connect with me, please do. I'm here. I'm an open book and I would love to speak with you.
I love that. All right. So now we're going to transition to 3 things with Neena and ask you 3 questions that just helps our audience get to know you even better. The first one is a 2-parter. How do you start and end the day?
I start the day with gratitude. I really do. I end the day with gratitude because that's the only thing I know to do to keep my life steady. So I actually put on some really great instrumental music. And I am grateful to God for everything. He got me through the day. I didn't pass away. I'm still healthy. My family's here. I end and start the day with gratitude.
Awesome. Second question is what's a goal or intention you set for yourself in 2025?
Yeah, so 2025, my overarching goal is to speak on more than 50 stages. So I'm going to be really kicking up really high gear my speaking career. I've spoken on a few stages already. I absolutely love it. And I love that I can connect with such big audiences. So that's my overarching goal, 50 stages or more 2025.
All right. All right. And the third question is where are you currently finding inspiration?
I'm finding, that's a really good question. So I found your podcast, by the way, Kyra. I've been listening to it for a while. It's very nice. You have great conversations. So I'm finding a lot of things like that, like really good, authentic conversations on podcasts. It's been one of the things I've been finding a lot. I've also been spending a lot of time with positive affirmations, like just speaking God's word over me, over my life, and over my family. And I do that now. For any of you guys that want a quick little tip, there's an app called Parrot, 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 like the bird. And if you want to speak affirmations to you that will stay in you, will go into your subconscious, because that's really what controls our life is our subconscious. This little thing called Parrot, you speak into it and it will repeat it over and over and over again and over again until you stop it. The good thing about that is if you're speaking blessings, speaking joy, speaking love, speaking gratitude over your life, you can constantly be doing that. So sometimes when I'm working, I'm just speaking to my subconscious all the godly affirmations I could find. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Well, Neena, I just have to say, first of all, thank you so much for coming today. I've loved this conversation. It has been so great. I think it's so enlightening and so going to be so helpful to so many people who are listening or watching us right now. Before I let you go, I do have to ask you one more thing. What are 3 things you'd like for the audience listening or watching to take away from our conversation today?
Yeah, you are worth it. Go for it no matter what. And don't let anything stop you because God is on your side.
Awesome. I love it. Well, you can always come back here. I look forward to coming to your show and sharing with you and talking more with you. But I want to say thank you again. And like I said, you've always got a place to come back here and share with us in the future.
Thank you. Oh, I appreciate that. I really enjoyed this. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Stay tuned, everyone. I'll be right back.